Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is titled, Do a Mid-Year Check-In on Your Life and Marriage Priorities. And we're going to give you some great conversation starters from our impromptu staycation we just did.
Right. So we'll dive in a little bit more as to what happened. But I want to start actually with a spontaneous question, Aaron, that I think will add value to everyone as well. Where is your love account score at?
Oh,
How would you rate your love account right now?
Putting me on the spot. And I had to ask you even before this, is it okay for me to share? Because we did the staycation yesterday. This Monday when we record. Obviously, listeners, you're hearing this on Tuesday. But I was a 10, going to sleep last night. And now already just from a few things, I'm at a 9. Now that's high. I was at a 10. And just being honest, just a couple of small things. I'm down at a 9, but still high.
And I don't take it personally because number one, we talk about the love account so much. We're so open about it that I just don't take it personally. I know, okay, we both were at a 10 yesterday, and I would also say mine's at a 9 now too. And it's not that it's like we're counting every notch down, right? Like we don't want you to take that away from this of, oh, wow, he's really counting. Like she said this thing and then she said this. But it's just, it goes to show you that the love account can so easily get depleted if you stack many different withdrawals. And it's so easy to lose track of them. That's why you can be like, wow, we had a good couple days. And then now it feels like we're back to, being off again, because it's something to maintain daily. And again, we're not.
It's like a bank account or a gas tank, if you will. It's something you have to always be intentional to fill up, otherwise you're going to be broke down on the road. And you have to, maybe pay attention to your driving style. You can't smash on the accelerator because that, brings it down, uses more gas. So that's the analogy for withdrawals, right? You're always going to have withdrawals. You're going to be pushing the gas pedal, and then you have to stop at the gas station and fill it up. You just always have to do that.
So the love account, as you guys know, that's something we are huge on maintaining. That's a principle that's in many of our resources, like our 30-day couples challenge, our family meeting guide, etc. But the reason I even brought that up is because us going on this impromptu staycation, which a lot of you were engaged with us during that time because we were sharing about it a little bit on our Instagram stories. And a lot of people were like, wow, that's such a good idea. We're going to plan one right now, actually. Or I brought that up to my partner.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So love that you guys even took that inspiration of something that, yes, it takes some figuring it out, like who's going to watch the kids or when are we going to schedule it, or, sometimes finances is a consideration, but the power of just making it happen. Now, it was a big deposit into our love account, right? It did take us up to a 10. And sometimes we do need those big deposits, like a little getaway, like a date with each other. We are not saying those things aren't important. What we want you to realize, though, is you can't count on that one thing to then carry you for a month or 3 months, right? Like, oh, okay, we did this staycation. We should be good, right? For we shouldn't have conflict.
When's the last time you filled the gas tank up? Oh, 2 months ago.
Right.
Oh, I broke down the side of the road. Well, it doesn't make sense. I filled it up 2 months ago. No, it doesn't make sense. Same with your love account.
Exactly. So just wanted to preface with that, but that's not even the main reason for having today's episode on having a mid-year check-in. And we know we're not quite at midway. We are past the exact middle of the year, but we were having this conversation while we were on our little staycation, among many other fun things that we talked about and did together. But we took this time together to just huddle and really talk about the rest of the year. And, I don't want to give away completely the conversation starter yet that we'll give you in a moment, but we just took a moment to come together. We didn't just talk about random things that don't matter, talking about this and that and the other thing. We wanted to intentionally connect. So with that said, a great way to connect is to actually talk about your priorities. the priorities in your life and your marriage. And I know at first that might not sound super exciting. It can sound almost like a business team having a meeting, but you are in a way. You are a team. You are auditing your life, and we have fun with this. This isn't a boring conversation for us. We really enjoy checking in on what our priorities are, because it's important to do more than once a year. A lot of times people do this maybe upon New Year's resolutions. We're starting the year. What do we want to focus on? And that's great. But life is happening so quickly. I mean, think about how much your life can evolve from week to week, month to month. There are new things that are presented to you. So we think that having this kind of a conversation, a check-in, at least quarterly, is great. And that's one thing that we have in our family meeting guide, is a quarterly check-in. So anyway, I find it super important to discuss priorities. What do we want to focus on? What are we putting our time to? Where do we want to put our attention? Because it's limited. You don't have unlimited hours of life. You don't even know how many days of life you're going to have. And so if you don't pause every once in a while and say, hey, what are we putting our attention and time to? Then you could have another year pass by, feel like nothing really changed, feel like you're completely off track from who you want to be as a person or a couple. But enough from me. Aaron, why do you think it's important to discuss priorities?
Well, number one, it might change for each of you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't realize, number one, that your priorities are shifting for yourself, how can you communicate your needs to your partner? And when you don't do that, it leads to upsets. Mm. Then you also have assumptions, because if you're not checking in on the priorities of your partner, then you might think they're the same that they were. And now you're prioritizing, say, work or building a savings or say something with the kids. Mm-hmm. And then what if the priority of your partner changes to be like connection or finding a different school or wanting to shift their profession, or health. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, these small little upsets are going to happen between the two of you. And it's not going to be clear on why that's happening. Mm-hmm. You just are going to get more tensions in conversations. It's going to seem like you're not matching up. Mm-hmm. You're like, well, I'm doing all these things. And what you don't realize is there was a more fundamental change in the priority of one of you, and you didn't express it. You're not really on the same page, and so that's where these upsets come from.
It's such a good point. I hadn't even thought about that. And they are evolving so quickly. So I think that's a great point of just really being on the same page, not making assumptions because your partner said something 3 months ago that's a priority, that it's as relevant today, because life is evolving, things change, circumstances are changing. So that is one of the conversation starters that we brought up during our time together, our staycation, was what should our areas of focus be for the rest of the year? And we came up with 4 main ones. And it doesn't mean we're neglecting other parts of our lives or anything. These were just the 4 that we said, this is where we want to put the majority of our attention, our time, our energy. So the first one, and these are in no particular order, by the way, but the first one I wanted to bring up was parenting. It was really nice connecting with you, Aaron, on just talking about how this toddler stage is different than baby stage, obviously. And there are things we don't know now, right? Like we don't know exactly the best strategies for handling quote unquote big feelings. We prefer to call them big feelings as opposed to tantrums. And so rather than us pulling from brief memories we have from our childhood or what our in-laws are saying or anything like that, one thing Aaron and I have in common is that we like to research. We don't just pull from our past and our parents and what they did. We want to research people who are experts in this and align with our philosophy and the type of way we want to raise our daughter. And so we even came out from our time together saying, hey, yeah, let's look up and learn and maybe listen to some different audiobooks specifically on the toddler stage. Mm-hmm. Anything more you want to add about that area?
I mean, no, that's right. It just take away as a listener how priorities are going to change on a frequency. It could be monthly, might be more quarterly, but here our daughter's roughly 1.5, and we're at a very new stage with how she's expressing herself through sound and body movement, not necessarily language. And that's at a different level than it was last month.
Right.
So that was something that we really have to address, because actually part of why we took the staycation is a part of those things. So it was kind of an easy thing for us to talk about. Hey, this has been kind of more stressful. It's been more of like a quote unquote burden on you specifically because of how attached she is. It's like, as you were saying on our staycation, you haven't had a meal on a table for a number of weeks. You eat on the floor and you can't even get up without her expressing her
disappointment
or discontent in you moving anywhere from where she is.
Yeah. And I want to just make sure it's clear, right? Because I know some people could hear that, and I bet we'll get DMs of people saying, hey, let me give you some advice, which totally fine if you want to send us some thoughts. But it's from everything we've read, right? It's totally normal to have these moments and these seasons in her life as a toddler of wanting mom, of not wanting me to get up and abandon her, or to prefer to play as opposed to sit in a chair. And that's where we're learning, right? Like, and we aren't just going to fly by the seat of our pants. We're going to research and we're going to learn. That was one of the outcomes of us talking about this, was let's learn some strategies. Let's learn what's happening for her psychologically and developmentally, so that we understand how to help navigate where her brain is at these days.
Yeah. Well, and that's, for me, a transitional period, because I think some would say we have to start verbally setting these boundaries, like, hey, you can't do this, don't do this. And it's like, well, she doesn't have the language yet to comprehend those things. And then there's the balance of allowing emotion to be expressed. Do you let that happen? Is it a period of time? And again, it happens for me because you need to shower, you need to go to the gym, so it's my turn to watch her, if you will. And she goes through expression of emotion. And I'm trying to balance, like, while I'm in the room with her, trying to get her to read a book, and she's like laying on the ground and she's crying. It's, do I let her know I'm still here? Obviously, she can't comprehend language yet. Do I pick her up? What if she does her like lay flat, stretch out thing? So anyway, it's just really looking at, we're in a very particular phase, and like, how do we want to approach this? And what we've been doing isn't what we're going to be doing forward. So it's obviously a transition.
Exactly. So that's just one of the areas that we said was a priority for the rest of the year, because we really care about how we raise her, and we care about being very conscious about the choices. So going to the second one was about our new home, which some of you who've either been listening to us for a little bit or following us, we are building a new home. It's the one where you can pick from, you start from scratch, and it's not a completely custom home, but you get to pick the majority of the design pieces. And so for us, a priority where we want to put some attention is having fun, the key, not just getting it done, having fun with some of the remaining things, like trying to design our backyard and our front yard, and what we want to do with some of the new furniture pieces, and just starting to anticipate some of the larger investments that we want to make. And we're really on the same page about it. And okay, yes, here's a goal. Here's what we want to shoot for, so that we can make all of these things happen. And we want to have fun with these design things. And that's also a key where you can get clear on expectations of, hey, do we expect that we're both involved in all of this? Or is it cool if I look up like light fixtures and kind of lead there, right? So you can really have an in-depth conversation about, is the expectation to do this together to make these decisions, or who's taking point on them? So do you want to introduce then the third area of focus for the rest of the year?
It's our business, which might seem obvious, but there were different seasons where our business wasn't as much of a focus, because we knew we were just going to continue the way that it was going. So why this is being a more top of mind front conversation is we're looking to make some kind of adjustments. And for me, it's like more about moving into even more in-person activities. I think we could say our last intention was about being able to provide like guides and challenges, things people could do easily and immediately, and we really fulfilled that intention. And so it's now coming back and saying, well, what's the next intention specifically around being able to support couples? What's the best way to do that? also the balance, because we have some great friends that balance this, Lori and Chris Harder, that's not always us continuing to do things either because we've done it or that's the best way to serve. There has to be a balance between what I am as well as you are being called to do or change in the expression of either the particular pains, or maybe the message changes a little bit, maybe the medium in which the message comes out, right? That could be social media, live events, online workshops, webinars, books, PDFs. Like there's obviously a lot of different ways. And I personally don't want to do things just because we've always done it that way. There's like something that my spirit is calling for. And so I try, and that kind of leads us into our last area, which is faith. And there's like not a bleed over, but there is a connection there. There's something that my spirit is being called to in developing my faith further, and how that gets sort of intertwined or mixed with our business and the message for couples.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like the evolution and really making sure that we're having fun with what we're doing. And again, that's like I hope you take that as a golden thread through this, not only getting aligned on priorities, but also that, you know, again, we only have so much time in life. And so instead of just doing things business as usual and, well, that's how we did it this year, so this is going to be same old, same old. Well, no, we want to make sure we love our life. Doesn't mean every moment is easy. If you guys listened to our personal update from a few episodes ago, you know that the last year was our hardest year of life, year and a half really, of life ever. And it led to so many breakthroughs, so many pieces of clarity, so much development in us. So we aren't saying, you know, enjoying your life means that it's always easy, but you at least feel on purpose. You at least feel you're headed in the right direction, because that makes the trials make so much more sense too, right? Or it makes there like some intentionality, some purpose for the trials. You can see the quote unquote light at the end of the tunnel, even though there really is no end of the tunnel, right? It's like you're in life going and going until, you know, our life sadly will end one day, but we want to enjoy the time that we have now. So I think that's why this conversation is a must to have. And so, yeah, those were the 4 areas that we said we were going to really focus on. It doesn't mean, again, that we're neglecting any other areas. Our health is a priority right now, but those were 4 that we said, you know, let's really bring a lot of energy, a lot of attention. Let's be on the same page about these. Well, you're smirking. Is there something you want to say?
Oh, it was just funny. I went to Trader Joe's this morning and I made a decision at Trader Joe's based on the health conversation.
Oh, yeah.
They have these muffins, and I chose not to get these muffins based on our health focus.
Right. We're focusing on building back some muscle that we lost from not exercising as much from our baby's first year and a half of life. But we have a fun challenge that we're doing together to refocus on that. So, you know, again, the whole point of this is that you just take some time. If you're able to do a staycation together, do it. But if not, can you do a date? If you can't get out of the house for whatever reason, if you don't have support or you don't have the time or you don't have the financial ability to, you know, have someone come in with your baby, then is it doing an at-home date? Is it that you do a date at home, you plan dinner, and then you have this conversation? You say, hey, I heard on the Freeman's podcast, what if we had this fun conversation about, you know, the rest of the year and our life and marriage priorities? What do we want to be focusing on? What do we want to put our energy towards? It can be a fun conversation. It doesn't have to be this intense business conversation where you're feeling like you're in a review for your performance, right? Make it fun. So with that said, if you want more guidance on how to have this conversation as well as some helpful structure, this is part of our family meeting guide and templates, because in that guide, we have a weekly check-in, a quarterly, and a yearly. And not only do you get the templates for how we have these kind of conversations with multiple conversation starters and prompts, but we actually start the whole guide with some communication tips to make sure they're constructive, that they're connecting, that they're purposeful. So the guide is just worth it. We talked to a couple, you know, right before this, and they had their family meeting guide there, and they said, we're having them on Sundays. And that's just so awesome to see. So 2 ways you can get the guide. You can either get it as an individual product by going to thecouplesexperience.com/family, Or pro tip is to do the better thing, which is actually when you sign up for our 30-day couples challenge, which we have one starting on August 1st. So you want to get signed up for that. When you sign up for the challenge, you get the family meeting guide included. So that's the even better, because then you get the challenge and the guide included as well. So you can also go to the link in the show notes so that you can make sure to get that guide. But we hope you loved this episode. We hope you take the time to have this great conversation as a couple, and we will talk to you on the next one.